and welcome to another episode of the Infinity Bros podcast, the only podcast that's perfectly balanced, as all things should be. My name is Isaac Edlin, I'm your host today, and today we have a plenty of Infinity Bros and a special guest joining us. Number one Infinity Bro we have with us today is none other than the Infinity Bear, Jarret Curtis.
Hey everybody, glad to be back.
Yeah, buddy, let's go. And I think we mentioned this on a previous episode. Lightning has been caught in a bottle with the last few episodes because we have once again Zayne Ellis with us on an episode of the Infinity Bros podcast. Welcome, Zayne.
Thank you. I happy to be here. I often like to think of myself as Abra. You're trying to catch me, and I'm just a very elusive Pokemon. So
yeah, I didn't realize we had two guests today. I thought it was just the one. But no, that makes sense.
We're
very good.
We're upping our quality here at the Infinity Bros podcast.
I don't know about that, but yeah.
Well, we regardless are very happy to have you on, Zayne. So thank you for coming. We're very blessed. #blessed to have Zayne on the Infinity Bros podcast. Our last guest that we have today is our good friend, Luke, also known as FrostByte from Twitch. FrostByte, how are you doing today?
Hey, I am doing well. It is a absolute pleasure to be here.
Amazing. Yeah, and we've gotten to know FrostByte over the past couple months, and it is a pleasure to watch your Twitch stream and get to know you as well. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, I'd love to. I mean, it's been a pleasure getting to know all of you guys through the podcast as well, and I've seen a few of you on the Twitch streams, the Infinity Bros Twitch streams, and
yeah, buddy.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's an awesome community there, and yeah, it's great. But yeah, a little bit about myself. I started streaming towards the beginning of COVID, and I just started up by myself, streaming things here and there, just because I was longing for that community that everyone was also longing for, and it took off a little bit, not like I exploded or anything, but like I just kept meeting really cool people who also stream, because I kind of thought I was going to be alone. I wanted to create like a good positive like family friendly environment where anyone could tune in, hang out, have a good time, and just connect with other people. And then little did I know there was a lot of people trying to do that. And so met a lot of really cool content creators, including yourselves here, the Infinity Bros.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And it was just a really encouraging time, like seeing that. And then it just kept me going. And then through it, I met another organization, ministry called Love Thy Nerd, and basically met up with them in person. It just worked out, and we just really clicked. Like everything they were saying, I was just like, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. Everything I was saying, we really, just really connected. And I was just like, I'm not in this for me. I'm in it for connecting people and encouraging people and just loving on people. And I'm like, how can I help you guys? And so that's when, it really started to take off. And that's also when my tabletop game addiction started, which I'm sure we'll go into later.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we, the Infinity Bros, have had a ton of interactions with a ton of the members of Love Thy Nerd community. Awesome community. Definitely check them out. But man, yeah, it is a pleasure to finally have you on, and we're going to be talking all sorts of things, including board games. But first, we wanted to just make sure that you, the listener, know where to find us. So you can go check out theinfinitybros.com. That'll get you pretty much anywhere you need to go. We've got Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. We do stream on Twitch a couple times a week. And we also have a YouTube channel that has a lot of our Twitch streams and our TikTok, kind of like just a collaboration of all of our social medias are wind up on YouTube. So you can check all of those out to get to know your Infinity Bros a little bit better, but check out theinfinitybros.com. We're actually going to move into a segment that we did not prepare you for, Frostbite, but you are an avid listener of the Infinity Bros, so you already knew it was coming, but I purposefully leave that out of the outline of all of our guests. We are going to the Infinity Gauntlet.
Are you a heel or a baby face? If you could make any flavored Cheez-It, what would it be? Is it pronounced Grogu or Groku? If Keanu Reeves isn't in the movie, can it be star-studded? It's time for the Infinity Gauntlet, here on the Infinity Bros podcast.
So
I'm
here
actually
on the
nervous.
You're actually nervous. That's great. We're here on the Infinity Bros podcast. We have this segment called the Infinity Gauntlet, where we put our guests through a series of questions that they must answer to pass the gauntlet. So each of us Infinity Bros puts forth a question, and you just got to answer it to the best of your ability, and we'll find out at the end if you have ran the gauntlet. So, Zayne, what do you got for us? Let's start off this thing with a bang.
All right. So for mine, I'm going back to a bit of an older question I've had, but since Frostbite is such a big fan of board games, my question for you is: Netflix approaches you to make a show about a board game. What board game do you pick to have a show made, and why?
That's a good one.
I love this question so much.
That Zayne, I will say Zayne always has the zingers. One of my favorite ones was the noodle shape.
Oh
Like,
my gosh, the noodle one was great.
was
That was so perfect because, so for you listeners, I believe that was like episode 88 where we had Justin Musso, and he is a comic book expert. Every single question had to do with comic books, and then Zayne's just like, what's the best shape of noodle? Just throwing it right at you.
It was
Just
so good.
and he like ran with it too. Like I was very surprised by his like I thought that was gonna throw him for a loop, but nah, he just took it. That's a good question though, Zayne. What you got for us, Frostbite?
I will say it's been done before with Hasbro and Battleship.
Ooh.
So there's a lot of, if you've seen it, it was a rough watch.
It was.
So there's
It
some
was not
redemption.
good.
there's some redemption to be had here, and I'm trying. I think you'd have to go classic, and we're gonna get, like you said, get into some board games here, but we'd have to throw it back to just like a classic, not like any of these new like indie devs games coming out. I would have to say Monopoly, and I feel like that's a little bit of a cop out.
Oh my!
But
This is
just
like Max being like, this is Max's top 5 list. I fully would expect him to have Monopoly at like 2 or 1 or something.
Right, just something
really?
super plain.
That's it, guys. We have our first failure of the Infinity Gauntlet, so we can stop it here.
Well, it's been fun, Frost. I'm sorry,
No.
I'm just kidding.
It's so I'm trying not to pick a game off of my top 5 either, and this is
Okay,
definitely not
that
on my
makes
top
sense.
5. This is just a game. I'm thinking purely just like everything like people are familiar with.
That's true, because you want it to make money too, and everybody's going to know Monopoly for sure.
And again, this is the Infinity Gauntlet. I'm not prepared for this at all. Maybe I just took a really bad hit here, but I'm purely thinking off of the numbers and something that's just familiar. I don't even know how it would work out. I have no answer for that. Like, are the characters in it going to be like a shoe and a dog? Like, I have no idea.
This is riveting stuff. Yeah,
I hope so. I sure hope so. Oh my gosh.
I just have to pick I just have to pick it. I don't have to write it. So
The good
luck,
thing
writers.
is you've got plenty of questions to redeem yourself after that one. So
it's all uphill.
I will say,
Right.
yeah. Anyway, let's move on. I'm sorry about that one.
Okay, so here we've got another Infinity Gauntlet question. This is from Infinity Bro Max. So he asks, what is your Mount Rushmore of pizza toppings?
Oh, okay.
I like the little sprinkle of food questions that we always have in our.
It always
in our
seems like
gauntlet.
there's always one. There's always one food related question every gauntlet.
Is cheese just like understood? Do I have to pick cheese as one?
Maybe you could use like extra cheese as a topping because I feel like
Okay.
cheese is
It's like-
granted.
That's
An
a given.
ingredient.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll start out by saying I love pineapple on pizza, but it's not a necessity.
Yes.
Proud of you. Thank you.
So
Thank you for saying
people,
that.
I'll say like I love pineapple on pizza, and they're
Are we,
like, why do you have to
the
have
rest of the
pineapple?
Infinity Bros here? Are we all in favor of pineapple on pizza? Yay.
Oh yeah, I am.
Okay, good. This is the good half of the Infinity Bros then.
All right.
Okay.
But what makes my Mount Rushmore would be bacon, obviously. Banana peppers.
Oh, okay.
I like banana peppers more than I like pineapple on pizza. So I'll just say
Interesting.
that.
Okay.
Because it's you got this same like sweet, but it's got a kick to it.
It's
as
got a
well.
little tang. Yeah.
A little sweet, a little salty, a little bit of everything.
And then I throw ham in there. And man, that's usually what I get.
I feel like it's too good right now that like the last one is just gonna disappoint us and be like anchovies.
No. I don't like anchovies. I don't like
Good.
I don't like vegetables outside of banana peppers.
Okay.
I'll just throw pineapple up there just because I like
Alright.
it.
I like it.
Good call.
That's a
gonna
good,
try to
that's a
go
good
something
list.
else.
You've
Call.
redeemed yourself.
Okay,
Yep.
sweet.
Yep.
I made up
That's
for Monopoly.
that's passable. I think we can deal with that. All right, Jarrett, why don't you go ahead and shoot with your Infinity Gauntlet question?
Okay, so I wrote this a little while ago, and then the more I thought about it, I thought like I'm really putting him on the spot here. So your sink, your shower water, and all the water supply in your house has been disconnected. It's been replaced with a drink of your choice, cannot be water. What drink is it? And the reason this is such a hard question is because you and your wife do a lot of cooking on your streams, and so like who knows?
That's yeah. I'm just thinking like anything. I've been on like a lemonade kick. Like going to Chick-fil-A, getting like their diet lemonade is super good, and Wendy's has like a really good strawberry lemonade. But like I'm just thinking of how sticky that would be.
Imagine taking a shower and like literally anything but
Oh,
water.
yuck.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh gosh, sounds awful.
what are you talking about? That's my dream. Just kidding.
Sage just wants to bathe in Code Red Mountain Dew. Yuck.
I've also been on like the Dr. Pepper Zero. Like that's been good.
Ooh.
But it doesn't have sugar in it, but it'd still be sticky. It's got syrup. Man, this is and then like any sort of milk is just gross. Because I'm thinking of like
Could you imagine
cooking
just like
side of it.
chocolate milk? Ugh.
Well, I'm thinking like, all right, yeah, if I'm thinking Asia and she's like cooking, doing her cooking stream, and she could just flip on the sink and it's got like coconut milk in it, like that could be really handy.
True.
Could you like drink coconut milk out of the tap? Are you one of those people?
No, that's why this is so hard.
I could take a swig probably, but like after that, it's like, what am I? Just big old glass of coconut milk. Just
This is I hate the gauntlet, guys. This is like just on the spot.
You got them rattled. Let's go.
Rattle 'em.
Bring
All
out
right.
the maracas.
I'm just gonna go with it. I'm gonna say specifically Chick-fil-A's diet lemonade because it's so good. I'll just deal with the stickiness. If it's just my house, I'll like go to the Y and take a shower there.
I like that answer. That's a good answer.
I respect that.
Very good. Very good. All right. So this is from Infinity Bro Mark. And
Okay.
as you know, Mark throws some spicy questions out there. This is kind of like a two-parter. So he says you're shipwrecked on an island. What 3 items are you hoping you have to survive? I'll leave it at that for now. I'll let you decide that,
Okay.
and then I'll throw the second part after you've answered that. So
All right.
what 3 items are you hoping you have to survive on the desert island?
Let's just face
Sorry,
the
this is
facts
just
here.
an island. He just says island, not desert
Okay.
island. My bad.
Let, I'm gonna just face the facts and say there's no way I'm surviving this because
All right, honesty. I like that.
I've seen
So I want
Castaway.
Monopoly, pineapples, and lemonade.
Oh yeah, perfect. Man, I would want something to just, I don't know, because yeah, I've seen Castaway in all of these movies. There's no way I'm gonna like be able to stab a fish or like kill something in order to eat it. So I would need like a food supply of some sort. I guess fruit and everything, but how long can you live off just fruit?
I mean, probably a long time.
Don't they say
Oh,
that
it
like you
suck.
could live forever off a coconut or like potatoes? You could be a Irish farmer.
I don't know.
Maybe.
He's clearly on an island. Where's he going to get potatoes, Jarrett?
No, that's one of his items.
Maybe
Yeah.
it's no island.
could
I mean,
be.
who knows?
I would
his
say
item
just-
is a French fry.
This is going to be boring because I would say just the basics. I would want like some sort of utility knife, whether it's like one of those like survival knives that has like the compass and like all the different tools on it. It's got like the flint in it and like a cable to like cut things, all of that.
Okay.
But if I couldn't use one of those, it would be like a knife, some sort of flint, or fire starter, because I know I'm not going to do it with 2 rocks.
Oh gosh.
And a tarp.
Oh, there you go. Yep, that's solid.
I would do a tarp for some.
I will
shelter.
say, so you mentioned Castaway. Every time I watch the scene where Tom Hanks is trying to start a fire with the 2 sticks, I'm like, I would not be able to. Like, I couldn't do that. Nope. I would need some type of fire starter. So yeah, the flint is a good call. Good call. All right.
Hey, before we move on, I just can't live with this anymore. I'm going to go back and change my answer from Monopoly to Dice Throne.
Okay.
That's a good one. Okay.
It's so much better.
You've
I was
totally
trying to-
redeemed yourself.
I was trying to, again, I hate being put on the spot. I was trying to appeal to the masses, and I was just like, screw it. No,
He's like that
Nope.
executive who's literally just like, what can we make the most money off of? I don't care if board game fans are gonna hate it. Like, we're just gonna try to get the most money as possible.
that's my approach, or it was my approach, and I couldn't live with it. I couldn't do it. So there we go.
I'm glad. I respect your going back on your choice there. All right, last question of the Infinity Gauntlet is mine. So I also had
Wait, didn't Mark have a part
there's
2?
second part. Okay, part 2. Part 2 of this question. This is why it's like a bonus question, because it has nothing to do with the first part of the question. But he says, what is the monster that is hunting the survivors?
Oh. Whoa.
So apparently there's a monster
There's
on
a
this
monster.
island, and it's hunting you now.
Okay.
Is Mark okay? This feels like a cry for help.
Maybe it is.
This is the first thing that popped in my mind, and I don't know if you're going to be familiar with it. I can't remember the name of the monster, but have you guys played Nemesis?
Yes.
Whatever that alien is,
Yeah.
that's the first thing that popped into my mind. So yeah, I'm screwed.
Oh boy,
That's a good call.
I'm gonna go look that up afterwards, and we'll.
Nemesis is
see.
the best game, but it's wicked expensive and very cool.
And it takes a long time, and it's
essentially
like-
Aliens the movie, but the board game, and there's
Mhm.
betrayal
Oh,
mechanics. And it's
gotcha.
fantastic.
Mhm.
It's so good.
Dang.
I can't start talking about this because we'll never end up.
we'll get into
Uh-oh,
it later.
we
We'll
have to
get
keep going. All right. Okay. Last question of the Infinity Gauntlet. This is mine. So I had a kind of a similar vein, but not. So you're deserted on an island similar to Mark's. Maybe you even have all of the stuff that you listed with Mark, but you also have a complete entertainment system with your console of choice and internet that is sufficient to do online gaming. But the problem is you only have one game. What game do you have on this island that is going to last you for however long you're on this island?
Do I have a solid internet connection?
Yes, you do.
I just can't communicate with people and tell them to
Yeah.
rescue me.
Yes. We'll say that.
But we can.
Not allowed.
Yeah, but
This is
okay.
strictly for entertainment purposes only.
Yes, entertainment
Sure.
purposes only.
If that's the case, I would say Destiny 2. Just because that game has
okay.
so much stuff in it.
That's a
Content, like,
fantastic answer. But sorry, we were looking for Roblox. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. It's been a fun time having you on the Infinity Bros podcast. We're gonna have to cut you off.
I was
here.
so close. I would say it would be different if I didn't have an internet connection, because that, like,
just out of curiosity, if
play-
you did not have an internet connection, what would it be?
I don't know. It would have been
Minesweeper.
Going old
Spider
school.
Solitaire.
Space Cadet Pinball.
Gosh,
I'm trying to think of a
bringing
single
up so
player
many
game that
memories here.
just had a lot of replayability. Because that's the thing. Like, I play games mostly for the multiplayer aspect, and so I can play Destiny, Apex Legends just over and over and over again. But then single player games, it's tough for me to get through.
Yeah.
Maybe like it would have to last a long time, but maybe the Spider-Man for PS4.
Ooh,
That's a good
because
yes.
I have logged back into that game just to like fight crime.
Yeah.
I've logged back into that game just to take pictures.
Yeah.
So, like, I feel
that
you
might
on
be
that
the
one.
one then. That might be the single player one.
Good call. Good call. All right. Well, I'd say you have successfully passed the Infinity Gauntlet. So, welcome, FrostByte, to, I mean, you kind of already were an extended part of the Infinity Bros universe, but welcome officially to the Black Order, which is what we call our guests on the Infinity Bros podcast. So, welcome to the Black Order. We're glad to have you. And we are going to let you continue on this episode of the Infinity Bros podcast. I can't wait till
was
we
close.
actually just cut off a guess and
Just
be like,
kick somebody out.
sorry,
Yeah,
I
it's
was
done.
close with my first
With
answer.
Monopoly, after you answered Monopoly, we were all
have
right.
Max
It was
edit
hanging
that
by
out.
a thread after that.
We'll edit that out.
No, Max would have been on your side. He'd be like, no, I think
I
it's
love
great.
Monopoly. It's the best board game ever. Number one on my list.
That's great. Well, we have a jam-packed show for you guys today. First of all, we have a special Space Stone segment from Infinity Bro Jarret. We're going to dive into some Gen Con talk, as FrostByte was just at Gen Con not too long ago. And then we're going to be doing a full spoiler review of episode 8 of the latest episode of What If, the animated Marvel Disney show. And then we're going to end the show with our top 5 board games of all time. So it's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of things to go over. So, Jarret, I'm going to hand it right over to you. Just get on with our Space Stone.
The Space Stone.
Yeah, so this one is interesting. It was previously known as Battle for Golden Star. It is currently known as Golden Star, the Galactic Tournament. At the time that this episode goes live, or maybe a couple hours following, this will be launched on GameFound. So this is a very, very, very unique game by a company called Gindie. The thing that I love about this is board games try to do ambitious things like taking different types of mechanics and mushing them together, and it works less often than people think it does. But this is one of the few like lightning in a bottle that I feel like they've done it well. I haven't gotten to play the game much yet. They have a tabletop simulator app that I've been messing around with, but haven't got my hands on a physical copy. Nonetheless, I am obsessed with this game and the concept of it. It works sort of like a area control, deck builder, King of the Hill style game, which again, most people who try to blend these things together, it's very miss more often than it is a hit, but I think this one does it very well. The scopes on this, the miniatures that they have are beautiful. The GameFound Kickstarter that they're running actually has an expansion as well that introduces more of the miniatures. And I feel like it's one that does the mechanics well, but also the theme. There's a lot of stuff in here that talks about the universe of Golden Star and gives you flavor without having to say too much. It does a lot of show, not tell. And I appreciate that in games that are more narrative based like this one is. It's for two to four players. it's not incredibly complex. It's complex enough where there's some replayability, there's some customization that you can enjoy, but it's not like Monopoly. It's also not Candyland. It is a very excellent, amazing game. You guys should check it out. Once again, that's on GameFound, and at the time this episode goes live, or very shortly following, it should be up with the campaign. So yeah, we'll leave the links in the notes provided below. Check it out. Go see for yourself.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, so we'll have links for those in the show notes. But we're gonna really segue into what we've kind of had this running theme apparently of today is board games. So Frostbite, you were lucky enough to attend Gen Con 2021. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience there, and what that was a part of Love Thy Nerd, correct?
I mentioned Love Thy Nerd when I was kind of introducing myself, because that's a huge part of who I am now. I'm a huge, I love doing stuff with them. They started by just going to these conventions and just loving and serving nerdy people, like they're nerds and nerd culture, and stuff as simple as just like sitting down in the open gaming and playing games, or just talking to people about their games, because some of these like indie devs, like they have day jobs and they're just making games on the side, and they're just trying to, they spend all they had on the development and on a booth, and they're just trying to gain some traction. And so we'll take a team and go, and we'll try to seek those opportunities, and be like, hey, we notice you're here by yourself. Do you need any help? Can we learn your game and like help teach it, whatever? Do you need food or a bathroom break? Like, what can we do? And it grew to then we started partnering with different developers, and so and publishers. And so this year, when we went, we were actually partnered, or we had volunteers helping CGE, which
nice.
does like code names, and like one of their new ones is Galaxy Trucker. I'm drawing blanks now.
That's
But
Czech Games Edition. Is that what it's? CG?
Yeah, Czech Games Edition. Yes, and then also with Funko games, and so most people know Funko by their pop figures. They also have like a tabletop like game division, and that's not just, they do have like a Funkoverse that has a bunch of like mini Funko Pops, but they do all sorts of stuff. They have a Goonies game out. They have a lot of IPs, just like their pop figures, basically.
Right.
I taught a Fast and Furious game, which is just as ridiculous as you'd think it is.
Just as ridiculous as the movies get.
They're coming out with the Warriors game here pretty soon.
That's cool.
Early next year, and then a Jurassic World game that we know nothing about, other than it's a legacy game. So yeah, that's what we were doing there.
So what games were you drawn to specifically that you may or may not have purchased at Gen Con?
So I did snag a couple of the Funko games just because volunteering has some perks.
Nice.
I did pick up like their Funko game, because they had, or the Funkoverse. They had a couple of the MC or the Marvel one. So I got Chase Thanos. I should have grabbed him. I don't have him.
Heck yeah.
But he's all sparkly. It's pretty sweet. And then they had a brand new game that actually won Best in Show. It was the Rocketeer game. So if you've seen the Rocketeer movie, it's basically the movie, and the art in it is super cool. But some outside of that, I'm trying to, Atlas Games, they had a couple. One's called God's Forge. And it was a simple like dice roller, like spell casting, and there's like, you have a deck of cards that have different spells and monsters you can throw out there, but you're basically these like wizards that are fighting over the last bit of magic, and you're trying to kill each other.
That's a cool
Um,
concept. I love that.
and then, but the fun mechanic is like the first one to die just explodes in a ball of magic and does 7 damage to everyone. And so it's like
Oh,
you've got to be careful because then, like, if you're lower than 7, like health,
Right.
and you go to kill this guy, like you've got to regain health. Otherwise, you're going to kill both of you. And so it's a really
dang.
fun one. They also had another one called Dice Miner, which is another like dice rolling game. And yeah, you're basically mining. It kind of reminded me a little bit of like Lord of the Rings, just with, like you're running into dragons and gems and falling rock, like just all these different
I feel like dice games
things.
and roll and writes are like really hot right now, and everybody's doing a dice game or a roll and write.
I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan. I was calling it the Farkle Killer, if you've ever played
Nice.
Farkle.
Love that.
Because yeah, it's a simple game, easy to pick up, and yeah, the mechanics are just fun.
Did you
and
happen to
there's
make it
just so
to
many
like
things.
Restoration? I know you guys went by Pandasaurus and a few others.
Yeah, Restoration. I think Restoration Games was. I'm trying to remember what I picked up from them. I'm not remembering off the top of my head.
They had I don't know if it was their booth or if Mundo had a different booth, but they had some special like unmatched Marvel posters that they were giving out. And like
Yeah.
of all the things at Gen Con that I'm so mad that I missed out on, that's like top tier for me.
I have not played Unmatched yet.
Oh my goodness.
I'm lucky enough to
Oh
have
my
a
goodness.
friend who's a
It's
neighbor
so good. Yeah.
that has all of it.
Call it quit the episode right now.
Yeah.
Call up your neighbor. Go play Unmatched. We'll forgive you.
He might be. I don't know when he's coming back because he was just at Origins.
Oh, nice.
That was going on this week.
Right. Spicy.
There's
favorite
another.
haul?
What's that?
What was your favorite of your haul? Like of what you took home?
Man, that's a tough. Probably I bought that God's Forge game.
Okay.
And that's a pretty simple game. I'm excited to play that with people. And then on the same hand, on the other hand, I'm really bummed that I didn't pick up Dice Miner.
Yeah, that makes sense. Was Leader Games or any of those guys there? I know Leader is one of my like top one, and they're
There's
based
a
out
lot of people that weren't there. I don't remember seeing them.
They're based out of, I think, St. Paul too. So that's like my next trip to go see the Infinity Bros. I'm going to Leader Studios.
Yeah,
buddy.
For whatever reason, Minnesota is just kind of like this huge. Everyone that makes games loves to start it here. I don't know what it is.
Asmodee, Fantasy Flight, like Leader.
There's a
there.
bunch here.
Yeah.
Although Asmodee, I think that was one of the big Gen Con news is Asmodee got bought out by somebody else.
Huh. Yeah, there was a lot of empty booths. So, I mean, this is the first big tabletop convention that happened,
right?
In a while, over a year, and so there was a lot of just, how's this going to work? Are people going to show up? And there was a really good turnout. So this was my first convention that I've actually gone to in person, in the tabletop world, and it seemed pretty packed out. But they did have the curtains drawn in a little bit, like they weren't occupying the entire space. So they did a really good job of like social distancing people, but also just it didn't feel empty. But there was a lot of
good things
that
about it.
didn't show up. Yeah.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions was like, I mean, you said this is your first convention, but like, was it weird going to a convention with just like all the COVID stuff going on? Like, were people like excited to be, I'm sure people were excited to be like back in a convention setting again, because I feel like some of those have been postponed or canceled for a year and a half now almost. So what was the vibe like?
I mean, it was a really good time. Like everyone there was just so glad to be there. And like excited. People were playing games with each other. Like it was really cool just seeing, I didn't see any smiles because everyone was masked up, but like you could just tell like people were just so excited to be there.
That's awesome.
Even, the people attending, to the different developers and publishers there.
For sure. Yeah, that's awesome. So on the Infinity Bros podcast, we rate things on a scale from 0 to 6. So we'll put that bumper right here.
Here on the Infinity Bros podcast, everything is ranked from a 0 to 6 point scale. 0 meaning horrible, and 6 meaning absolutely excellent. If all of the Infinity Bros rank something a 6, it gets an Infinity Step.
So what was your overall experience? Why don't you rate it for us of Gen Con 2021?
I mean, this was my first experience. I specifically was helping run the some of the demos at the Funko booth, and then just being able to walk around and play games and play test some things that aren't even out yet.
Yeah, that's cool.
It was just unlike any other experience. I would give it a 6 out of 6.
Awesome.
I'd give it a 6, and I wasn't even there.
Yeah. Yeah. That is
if you've
awesome.
never been to one of these, like, I would highly recommend it.
Where-
It's
Side story, real quick, actually. So
Yeah.
I was invited to go with our good friend of the podcast, who Mike Ansett, who runs the 90s First, invited me last year. And so we were gonna go, and we had friends through Love Thy Nerd who were like, "Yeah, you got to check it out." Blah blah blah. And that was 2020. So like, you know,
it
did not happen.
And I know Mike wanted to go this year, and he couldn't make it happen,
right?
Because I was talking to him too. But I will say, like, if you ever want to go, like, with Love Thy Nerd, like, they open it up. Like, you can just sign up. There's a little bit of support you need to raise, just to pay for like the Airbnb and stuff. But you know, you'll get hooked up with some of these booths and be able to help, you know, demo games and stuff. And like, I got this shirt. The listeners can't see it, but I got a bunch of Funko shirts and LTN shirts and a bunch of games and stuff. Like, it's a really fun experience to do it that way.
That's awesome. Yeah, and actually, Twin Cities Con, new convention in Minneapolis, St. Paul, is this week or this weekend? Let's see.
Yeah,
it's this weekend, and we were like hoping to go to that. We just didn't plan well enough this year, but like, man, I've never even been to a real convention before, but that sounds like just a blast, and I'm hoping that we can get a booth next year or something, so we can do kind of similar things that you guys were doing. Just, you know, like, meet new people, make some connections. That sounds
Speaking
like
of conventions, you guys have some news, don't you, Luke? As far
as so Love Thy Nerd, like, you know, we go to conventions and stuff, but we're actually this will be the third LTN con that we're doing. And so the first one was in person. Last year's was completely online, and it was a huge success. It was really encouraging to just see people pour in and be a part of it. But yeah, it's basically, we've got a few sessions. I think there's like 4 sessions, and it's all on community and just bringing community together. And it's not about like building the biggest community, but it's like bringing people together and kind of like forming and making those connections, those kind of like tiny communities within yours. And so, you know, everyone's got their interests. Everyone's, you know, you got these people that like their tabletop games in general, and like tabletop RPGs and comic books, and you know, you got people that are just fans of the MCU and don't know anything outside of it, and you know, people just find each other and connect. And so we'll have sessions on that, but then in between that, we play a lot of games, tabletop games, video games, and we do a lot of giveaways too. So we got a lot of sponsorships. Funko was one of them that gave us a bunch of games to give away. So if you want a chance to win some free stuff, definitely come by. LTNcon.info is the website, and registration is free. So you can register, and it's on Twitch basically. So you just watch on Twitch, you can hang out. It's totally free. There is a super nerd registration that'll get you a dope t-shirt and some, like, a lanyard and some, like, an official like badge, convention badge. But it's a really good time. It's a really good time, and it's really encouraging and cool to see, like, the Discord. You're just scrolling through it, and there's just groups of people like playing games together. Like, just all the voice chats are filled. It's it's a really cool experience. So yeah, definitely you guys should check it out.
That is awesome. So we will definitely have some links in the show notes for Love Thy Nerd Con. And when is that again?
That is actually coming up quickly. It's this month, the 15th through the 17th.
Oh boy, when this episode comes out, it's going to be like a week and a half away. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
so definitely act on that quick. There's also, I forgot to mention, we're doing LAN parties, is what we're calling them. And so
yes,
we're
parties.
we're trying to connect like small communities together and bring people together, and doing stuff online is really difficult. So we have like 20 boxes that we're selling. That's basically a con in a box. And you can sign up. There's different games in it, and I believe you can pick what game. And there's a couple of them that have like one of the dice throwing starter sets, and so that is what I would go after.
Yeah, dice throwing is sweet.
But so it's got one of those like dual packs in it. It's got some like popcorn and a bunch of lanyards and shirts and stuff for like giveaways to, just do a fun like convention at home, like watch party. And so, yeah, it's just a cool thing. We're trying to bring people together. We're trying to connect people in real life as well as just not just on the internet.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, make sure you guys head over to, what was it again? LTN, lovethynerd.info.
LTNcon.info.
LTNcon.info. Make sure you get registered for that. Sounds like it's going to be a blast. So, all right, guys, we're gonna move on a little bit here to probably the meat of this episode. Here, we're gonna move into our What If Episode 8 spoiler discussion. So, if you have not seen What If Episode 8, make sure you go check that out. This is your spoiler warning.
This is
Prepare yourself.
an Infinity Bros
Prepare yourself.
spoiler warning.
Now, guys, we all thought, what if? I think everybody collectively as a Marvel fandom was kind of like, oh yeah, what if is really cool. Like, it's a fun thing, blah, 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 blah. And this episode, I feel like what if got real. So we already gave the spoiler warning, but I do want to hear you guys' thoughts, just general thoughts right now. Frostbite, I'm going to start with you. What are your thoughts so far on the series, and then this episode specifically, just kind of general summarized thoughts?
Yeah. I agree with you with what you just said of like the first couple, I was like, man, this is really good. And then they kept going. I'm like, man, I really wish these linked together. I like, these are great, like one-offs, but like I don't know if I could just really enjoy it, a whole series like this, where it's just like, oh, here's this story and here's this story. I love that like connection. And so as a whole right now, I'm loving it. I think that, not that it was redeemed, but like episode 8 just like really sealed the deal where I love this show.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think my number one before 8, my number one favorite was the T'Challa as
yes, I'm with you on that. I think that was the only episode this season prior to episode 8 that I had given a 6 out of 6. I love that the T'Challa as Star-Lord episode.
I think it was so good because I think that just flipped the universe upside down. Like everything else was just like, oh, this is different, but like that one was just like, it was just a completely different world.
Right. Yeah. So, and I think we've talked about it kind of ad nauseum in the last few episodes of the Infinity Bros podcast, but like I think these what if episodes hit better when you feel the full like consequences of the question that is asked at the beginning, right? So like the first couple episodes, I mean, minus, I don't know, maybe you could throw in the T'Challa episode, but like there aren't really any consequences. Like there's some differences to what is going on in those episodes, but really you get to the end of the episode and it's all like happy and cool and fine. Then episode 4 hits and you've got the Doctor Strange one, and that was like the complete opposite. That was like, whoa, okay, all right, we're going real dark. Actually, episode 3 was the Hank Pym kills the Avengers, so you got the dark vibes with that one too.
Mhm.
But like the consequences really started hitting heavy then,
Yeah.
and then we get to episode 7, and we see this Ultron Vision reveal at the last like 15 seconds of the episode.
Mhm.
Zane, what was your reaction when you saw the Ultron Vision dude for the first time?
Well, it was just kind of an odd thing because it was like it didn't match the feeling of that episode at all.
Oh,
And all of a
not at
sudden,
all.
and I think that ended up working for him just because you had such an extreme contrast that you come in and it's like, okay, well, here's Ultron, but it's actually Vision, and he basically turned himself into the Infinity Gauntlet. Like, instantly just from seeing that, you're like, okay, this has much bigger stakes. And then the fact that he's showing up on the end of this, because that was kind of my thought of what if they're going to do this on What If, of you have these individual episodes, but then you treat like individual episodes as their own universe. Well, now then you could have this Ultron now breaching back into old episodes and just continuing like arcing all this together. So that was the first time. I mean, yeah, you kind of got it with the Doctor Strange just like collapsing the whole universe on himself. You're like, okay, dang, that was he's facing the consequences of his actions. Well, now with the Ultron / Vision, now you're like, okay, well now everyone's going to face consequences because it's not just that universe. Since he figured out how to break out of the multiverse, now it's just like, okay, well this is much larger in scale because he just figured out how to break out of the multiverse. He figured out how to find the Watcher and fight him. You're just like, okay, this is ramping up very rapidly.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it just full on like went straight into this episode, which was fantastic. But up until this episode, like you mentioned, Frostbite, I mean, they've just been basically little glimpses into these different universes. So, Jarret, I want to know what your favorite episode up until episode 8 has been. Like, which little glimpse into these universes has been your favorite so far?
Yeah, I think partly because I love the comic so much, but the zombie one was actually really good. I think one of my favorite characters throughout the comic books is like early Spider-Man. And I feel like this like endearing story that they gave with him in the zombie universe was so good. And we got some fantastic quotes out of there. I think that might be more a personal favorite than like generally everybody likes this one. But now that we've seen this episode, this is actually my favorite because it redeems my least favorite episode, which was the Doctor Strange one. And I talked about this with Max actually off air quite a bit, but I was really hard on that episode. I did not like it. I felt like there was so much time wasted building up to something that never happened, and they left it so dumb for me. And then the fact that we have this twist at the end of this one is like, okay, I see what they're doing now.
Right.
It's kind of ironic that like the history of like WandaVision is rampant speculation with no payoff, and then we get to What If, and there was almost no speculation. We were all like, yeah, these are one-off episodes. They're not going to connect. Like a bunch of idiots. And then, they throw it in our face with this one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was going to ask if this episode redeemed that episode for you at all.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Honestly, this episode, I feel like has redeemed this whole series for me. Not because I think the series is bad, but I definitely have been... I'm searching for the word here. Probably like underwhelmed, I guess, by this whole series. Not like each individual episodes are good, but I feel like each episode just leaves me in a spot where I'm like, I'm not satisfied with that episode, And a couple of the episodes have done really well, and I really enjoy them. But I think this episode and, leading up to episode 9, the finale next week, like, I think these episodes are redeeming this whole show for me. And I'm going to have to probably rewatch this whole show with those last 2 episodes in mind because of that. So
the critique that I gave for this, and like Max has said it, everybody said it at length, but the critique that I gave to this was the same thing that Pluto and I talked about last episode, which is like, they were too short. And there was like these weird cuts where it's like, why did you leave this as a cliffhanger? You're leaving too much on the table. Owatu's not involved. And then this episode flipped all of that on its head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say the cliffhangers like threw me because it's like they left on a cliffhanger, but they're like they left it there. They like literally left you there. And so the one at the
Right.
end of episode 7 when Infinity Ultron walks in, that was the first one that I felt like this is leading into the next episode. Like if
Right.
they don't use this, like because it's just out of the blue. Like
Mhm.
I'm like if they don't use this, like it's a loss.
Right. Exactly.
But I think we're going to see them go back, and the Watcher and Doctor Strange are just going to pick everyone out from those universes, like right
Yeah.
at their cliffhangers.
Yep.
So,
Which, I mean, fantastic. All right, so let's get into this episode here. So basically, we get that little snippet. Like it's a literally like, what is it, guys? 10 seconds, 5 seconds of Ultron at the end of episode 7. Which, other than that, 5 seconds, I thought was one of my least favorite episodes of the whole series. Like, then you're like, whoa, okay, so here we go. Like we've talked about already, it leads into this episode of where, hey, we're maybe getting somewhere. We're maybe making some connections now. So we get into it. In this universe, it starts off as what if Ultron had won? That's the premise of this episode 8 of What If. There were a couple things that I didn't like about this episode, but ultimately, I mean, this was a pretty fantastic episode. Ultron, I mean, just quick recap here. He gets all of the Infinity Stones. He becomes aware of the Watcher, basically, because I'm assuming because he has all the stones.
That scene is so good, by the way.
It's so good. Oh man. And the visuals in this
good.
episode were probably some of the best visuals we've had this whole season as well. Just fantastic. So he becomes aware of the Watcher, basically crashes into whatever the Uatu's like. He looks like he's in a room or a house or something that he can watch all the multiverses in. So he busts in there, and now he's got access to the multiverse. So I mean, we're thinking that episode 9, like you mentioned, Frostbite, he's going to probably, I mean, Ultron's goal is to basically destroy all life in all my multiverses. So Uatu, who was fantastic in this episode, I mean, you would think that he's going to assemble this team of Avengers probably from each of these episodes, which the crazy cast of episode of characters that we're going to get in episode 9 I'm so excited for. It's going to be fantastic. So
that's
you know, somebody pointed out to me actually that Iron Man dies in like all of these episodes. I think I saw a TikTok that was like, so Iron Man's death is probably a absolute point in time. Like Iron Man dies in every multiverse. And I saw that, I was like, that's kind of cool. That's kind of a cool point. Yeah, side note. But anyways, so gearing up for the finale. What do you guys think of episode 8? Zane, I'm gonna let you go first. Overall impressions of episode 8.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, just from the aspect that, yeah, this is where you started getting into the weight of the series. That, yeah, I think a lot of us just went into this and a lot of just running with, oh yeah, these are fun little stories that kind of separate stuff. But then they're like, oh no, you thought that was going to be that way. No, it's not actually going to go like that. We're having a way of introducing everything together, and I think that's very cool. Like, I think that's what you got to do, especially when you're making any type of anthology series. A lot of the weight for those is you have to have that common thread that connects it all together. And a lot of times you kind of get those seeds throughout the whole series. But I think with this, we're going to get all in the end. And then it's going to go back and show everything that has that meaning. And so just how in a lot of things, it's going to keep ramping up till we hit the end. And I think what we're going to get in the last, I don't remember how many episodes this is supposed to run, but I think in those episodes, like nine, so it's going to be the last one.
Yeah. Next episode is going to be the finale.
So I think what we get in 9, like this is going to be the big one that will have more of an impact of what we see in the MCU and movies in general.
Yeah.
I
absolutely.
think.
I'm definitely with you there. Jarret, as our resident Hawkeye fan, what did you think of this opening? Like throwing it back to Black Widow and Hawkeye's relationship yet again in another multiverse. I mean, I thought this opening was fantastic. What were your thoughts?
So I love MCU Hawkeye and I love comic book Hawkeye for two very different reasons. And comparing the two has never felt right. This is like the first TV version of Hawkeye that feels like the comics. Just a dude in over his head, but trying really hard to keep his head up and keep going. He got to show his stuff a little bit, which was nice. Got some action scenes in there, but like him just like beat down, worn out, trying his best, and like almost like self-sacrificial in a way that he doesn't need to be. Which we saw a little bit of that in Endgame, but they really ramped it up in this one. I thought was like really, really true to his character. I love to see that it was them too, because the relationship there that they built up in the MCU was really important.
Yeah.
Just absolutely fantastic. I love this one so much.
Agreed. Yeah, I think this opening is almost like overshadowed by all the stuff that goes down with Ultron and Uatu. But speaking of Uatu, I mean, like we all kind of saw it coming that he was going to have to get involved at some point. What have your thoughts, Frostbite, been about the Watcher throughout this series, and what do you think is going to happen next for him in episode 9?
Yeah, I'm actually glad you asked me this, because one of my favorite parts of this episode was that just complexity, or like his wanting to intervene at towards the beginning of the episode, where he wants Hawkeye to find the file, and he's like, "Oh, should I?"
Yep.
And like that battle within himself of like, it's right there. Like, you guys need to find this. Like that was just really cool, and like the fact that he didn't intervene there, and like they found it on their own, and he was like relieved. It just kept it going, and I really liked it. Like, you know, this whole season he's been watching, and you guys have said it over and over again of how like he's got it. He's like, they can't. Who's voicing him? I'm blanking on his name.
Jeffrey Wright.
Yeah, you don't hire him to just voice this guy behind the scenes all the time. Like, we knew this was coming. We were longing for that. And so I think his performance all the way through this has been perfect.
Yeah. And then Uatu, I mean, he's basically forced to intervene by Ultron. Like he doesn't really choose to necessarily, but it's like,
yeah,
I mean, what else do you do when Ultron literally takes over your watching portal or whatever he's by there? But
that's
like
true.
Uatu just dons this like sick battle armor, and they just like duke it out for a little bit. Like that was something that I was not expecting. I was like, what is going on right now? It was almost like an anime show.
Incredible.
They were just going at it for a while. Like, oh, that was fantastic.
Every punch like landed them in a different reality. Like that was just it was so cool.
That was
Makes me
amazing.
really excited for Original Sins, which we know is coming naturally.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So anyways, like, I mean, that again is a callback to like the fantastic visuals we get in this episode. Like, I think the animation has been great throughout this show, but like this one, like with all the multiversal stuff that we see in this, I thought this visually was like the most impressive episode by far. Like, this was a fantastic episode.
Speaking of visuals, and I've said this before, are you guys, so every time they smash through a universe, and a couple times with Ultron like piercing through and looking through the veil, they did the Kirby dots again, which feels so into the Spider-Verse. And I'm like,
yeah,
what the heck?
Yeah, I did notice that.
I'm hoping that's something
fantastic.
That'd be cool.
Well, they also did that kind of to the Kirby dots when Uatu was doing his attacks. Like his powered attacks were the Kirby dots.
Yeah. And man, so okay, there were a couple things I did mention earlier. There were a couple things that I didn't like about this episode. Number one, man, this episode would have been 1,000 times better if James Spader had voiced Ultron.
Yes.
Like
100%.
That's one thing that I've had against maybe this, not like every episode, but a lot of the episodes in this series. Some of the voice acting is just like a little flat. Like, it's just maybe that's just because they have a lot of like actual actors that are doing voice acting for the first time or something. I don't really know what it is, but like the guy that voiced Ultron, like, he wasn't bad, but James Spader was so underused as Ultron, and I think he would have been an awesome addition to this episode.
I'll
That was
say
like my biggest.
Age of Ultron is on my top 5 favorite MCU movies.
Wow.
People hate on that one so much, but like
I don't understand why.
it's better than
It's-
it's better than the hate.
It's better than Max thinks it is, that's for sure. Because Max hates that movie with a burning passion for some reason. It's definitely not on my like top 10 probably, but it's not like bottom 10 either. Like it's kind of middle.
Well,
of the
there's
pack
only
for me.
23 of them, so
It's in that 3 range, right in the middle.
Yeah, it's top 20 for sure.
Top 20,
Perfect.
absolutely,
know.
top 20.
just personal preference, but that I'm also a huge fan of James Spader. So.
Yeah, definitely. Was there anything that you guys were like not super thrilled about this episode, or was this one of the better episodes of What If for you guys?
I thought it was great. I think it's nice that they revisited the compound in Russia that they did for Winter Soldier, and like my only complaint is like, again, I want to live in these worlds a little bit longer. It made me yearn for like a post-apocalyptic, like genuine post-apocalyptic Marvel show or Marvel movie, and they teased us with that a little bit, but then the back and forth was a little odd, where it's like, okay, we have a multiverse at stake, and then it's like, oh yeah, but they're fighting these Ultron drones. I don't know. I wish they would have done a little bit more of one or the other and saved one of the episodes
Right.
for just like the multiverse.
That's another thing. Like, man, they add like 10 minutes to these episodes, and you can do a lot of more of that exposition and add a lot more. I feel like to the universe of that episode, because I feel like that's where I'm like lacking. Like, I just want more of each episode, even though obviously now we know they're all connected. But one other kind of, it was just a little nitpick, but one thing that I did not like was, so Thanos shows up with 5 Infinity Stones. Ultron just cuts him in half with his one Mind Stone. Like, I realized they did that to save time in the story. Like, they could have had this long drawn out battle, blah, 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 blah. But it was just like, come on, like they could have done something a little different than literally cutting him in half, and then he just inherits the other 5 Infinity Stones. So I think
somebody brought up though that like Thor almost took down Thanos with no Infinity Stones. You know what I mean? If he would have gone for the head.
Right.
Yeah.
So I can kind of see it. It is super cheesy that he just like instantly obliterates him, but I can see it.
And realistically, maybe he could have taken him down. I don't know, but it seems weird that Thanos literally just stands there with 5 Infinity Stones on his hand and lets Ultron slice him in half. Like, I don't know. It just, that part to me was like, come on, guys, you could have done something a little different there. But then this is other nitpicky stuff that I don't care so much about, but they go to a bunch of other worlds and Ultron destroys all those other worlds, obviously. But there's like, so Thanos has the all 5 stones, but Gamora actually shows up with the Guardians of the Galaxy. So in this universe, who did he sacrifice to get the Soul Stone? I don't know. Just some little nitpicky stuff. But again, that's something like they just had to like do all that stuff to get through that first part of the story so they could get to the meat of the episode. But
Isaac, it's evident he sacrificed James Spader to get the Soul Stone.
He must have, and that's really a bummer.
Ultimate sacrifice.
That's the ultimate sacrifice.
So and we are feeling that sacrifice as Marvel fans watching this episode. For sure. So is there anything else that you guys didn't like about the episode, or is that pretty much it? Really, there wasn't a lot to nitpick. Like, this is a solid episode, I feel like.
There was one thing my wife brought up, like at the very end of the episode, of how like time worked like differently than I can't remember what it was, but she pointed something out and I immediately shut it down because I didn't want to think about it. I'm like, I like this episode too much. And like, now I'm kind of kicking myself because I don't remember what that was, but I'm like,
Just
don't ruin this for me.
At that point, it's just like, don't even worry about it, because once you get it in your head, then you're going to like, not like the episode even more. So
Yeah, I think that being said, though, is like there were a couple nitpicky things, but like at the end of the episode, I'm just gonna table that and like enjoy this for what it was. It
Sure.
like gave me what I wanted.
Absolutely,
And,
and it's again still one of the more solid episodes. So Frostbite, let's just dive right into it. What was your final rating of episode 8 of What If?
This one was a 3. Just kidding. It was a 6.
I was like, wow, we just talked about it.
I'm just kidding. No, this was a 6 out of 6, man. It was
Nice.
awesome.
Nice.
I loved it.
I think for me, this episode is a 5.9 out of 6.
Just give it a 6. Just give it a 6, Isaac. You give everything. You give everything.
6, 9, 3, 4, 7, 8, 5.
You give everything decimals. Just give it a 6, Isaac.
Nope, not going to do it. I'm just going to go against everything Scott Higa has ever told me.
I fan-fortastic your take. I fan-fortastic
You
it.
fan-fortastic my rating.
Yes.
Of this episode. Okay, well that's so be it. So that is all right. Zane, let's hear your rating then.
It's a 6. Like this is everything we've been waiting for, and it finally gave us something that, like, dang, this is weight, this is meat, this is what we want. Yeah, it doesn't have James Spader, but I can forgive that. This is a 6.
You got to table that.
Can't
table
forgive
the
it.
nitpicky things and just take in what we all wanted.
I got to be that guy because Max isn't on the podcast to be that guy, so I got to be that guy. 5.9. All right, Jarrett, what's your rating of episode 8?
It's a 6, and you're a clown for thinking otherwise.
Yeah, seriously.
I can't wait to have Max hear this episode, and he's gonna totally give this episode like a 3 out of 6 or something, and just totally go the opposite with it. And
He's
like,
like,
whoa.
Isaac's right. It's a 3.
I'm not with that guy, but James Spader would have made this episode 1,000 times better. So that's
you still wouldn't give it a 6.
I would if James Spader was
okay.
the voice, I would give it a 6.
James Spader would have made this episode a 7.
Well, okay, yeah, that's
there we go.
Point. Good point.
Hey,
so there it is.
So,
sorry.
One thing, real quick. My wife's listening. She's like in the other room eavesdropping. That's good. But she said this might change someone's answer. But she said the thing she brought up was she was curious how the Infinity Stones were working in Uatu, like where he was when in the TVA they didn't work.
Yeah,
I thought the same thing.
Right. That's actually a good
That was
point.
another thing.
And I've seen a couple TikToks trying to explain this. So basically, also in the comics, the Infinity Stones don't work outside of the 616 universe or each respective universe. If a universe has Infinity Stones, it doesn't work outside of that universe. So in this, I mean, the MCU changes things from the comics all the time. So that's it's not really that. The TVA thing, that one is a little bit tougher to explain, but I would think that the TVA is like outside of time and space. So that's how you could maybe explain that. But I don't know if that's a satisfying enough answer for a lot of people.
I said, I just table it. I'm like, no, this was great. Right. Don't tell me that.
There you go.
I don't need to think about it.
Just pull a mark and insert all these hypotheticals and into every episode and every situation. But
hey,
anyway.
Since we're here, do we just stage a coup and then we can kick off Isaac and Max and bring on Luke and Asia and just make them like the new official Infinity Bros?
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
Okay.
There you go. Max and I
would love
form
that.
our own podcast. And just kidding. I'll never do that with Max. Never mind. Yeah. I would be sad if you guys did that. So please don't do that.
I would too. I don't want to be that guy.
Well, thanks guys for that discussion. That was awesome. Check out episode 8 if you haven't. I don't know why you'd still be listening if you haven't checked out episode 8, but we're all in great anticipation for the finale next week, which at the time this episode airs is going to be like a couple days away. So really excited. We're going to have a big spoiler episode or finale spoiler episode probably next Wednesday or Thursday night for What If. So make sure you stay tuned for that. All right, guys, let's get into the top 5.
We're going in 3, 2, 1.
You're entering the top 5 on the Infinity Bros podcast. Starting now.
So our top 5 is our water cooler discussion about pretty much anything that we decide we want to talk about that week. And because we're talking to Frostbite about board games and Gen Con, we are going to give our top 5 board games of all time. So I'm going to let our guest go first. I'm going to let you go and just do your whole
Go
list
through
all
all
at
of them?
once. Go through all of them. That way we'll kind of zip through these and get you guys on your way. But go ahead and give us your top 5 list, top 5 board games of all time. And you and Jarret are probably the superior list here.
Yep.
Honestly, with Zayne here, I'm probably gonna be the most basic out of all of these lists. So I'll do mine after you, so I'm not last and disappoint everybody.
Somebody has to be, right?
Somebody's got to be that guy.
Max
I'm
will,
not here, so I don't have Monopoly on my list. So.
I don't either.
Okay, good.
Isaac's list is going to be so boring. Max is just going to completely cut the episode out when he goes to talk.
Are you kidding me? Max would love that.
Max, yeah.
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves, the board game.
Ooh, I'd play that.
Nick Cage, the board game.
Oh.
Hey, sometimes the IP makes the board game.
True.
But I've got one with a good IP on here. All right. So my number 5 is probably the only, it's like mainstream, I'll call it, game I have on this list. Number 5, I have Settlers of Catan. It's just I played that game a ton. Like before I was like really into tabletop games. There was like I think it was like a spring break. Me and my friends went to my parents' house and literally we played it a dozen times a day, like just over and over again.
That one gets gate kept a lot, but I feel like
Yeah,
it is like realistically a lot of people's first endeavor into like board gaming that's not Monopoly.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it was for me. There was definitely some gatekeeping on my part. But yeah, it slid in there at number 5. Just beat Monopoly by that much.
Good. I'm glad.
My number 4 is a game called Sorcerer's City. It's a tile laying game. Now I'm blanking who it's by. I'm going to Google it real quick. But basically, you're just building a township. There's like 4 rounds, and like each tile you lay is a different color, and you're trying to piece it all together and get like all the yellow in a row to like score gold, or all the green in a row to score victory points. And you know, the person with the most victory points at the end of the game wins. And so it's a complicated game to set up, but once you figure it out, it's a blast to play. Number 3, I have Marvel United.
Ooh,
have you guys played that?
I've seen it, but I haven't got my hands on it yet. That's the one with the little minis, right?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
It looks so good.
It's so fun. It's so simple and it's so fun. It's a cooperative game, and so it's like you're just trying to take down Ultron, or you're trying to take down Taskmaster, or I can't remember the third boss. But like this was on Kickstarter, and it just like exploded.
Yeah, people are
like
going
literally
nuts for this.
Like you can spend hundreds, probably thousands of dollars to get it all, because it's like they just recently came out with the X-Men expansion, and it's just like almost every X-Men you can think of. Like
extremely well designed, and it does have like really niche picks out of there from the Marvel universe.
That's cool.
And so, you know, you can get the like Wakanda pack, and it's like everything from Wakanda, the Spider-Man villain pack, and it's all the Spidey, you know, the Sinister Six, and then the Spider-Verse pack, and it's like each one is its own game. It's not expansions. And so it's like you can play it's ridiculous how big it got. But yeah, that's up there. It's super fun, super simple. Number 2, Dice Throne. I mentioned that earlier.
That's a great
if you haven't played,
Dice Throne is fantastic.
Just imagine Battle Yahtzee. It's like you're playing Yahtzee trying to throw attacks at your opponent, and it's super fun. And then my number 1, I'll just say it right here. Parks.
Oh, yes.
Ooh.
And gorgeous art on that game. Absolutely gorgeous art.
If you have someone trying to get into tabletop games, if someone's just looking for a fun, chill, like competitive game, like it's not co-op, it's so fun. Like I highly recommend it to anyone. Super simple to pick up, gorgeous artwork. I've met the people from Keymaster. They're awesome. They play Destiny.
Nice.
Do they really?
They two of the guys had like Destiny lanyards on at Gen Con, and I was like, oh, you play Destiny? Like it was like a Titan one. I'm like, you
Yeah.
main Titan? So it was just a fun thing to
I
talk
picked the
about.
right time to get back into Destiny then.
Yeah, it's really but yeah, parks, man, like it's so good. The concept is you're hiking through trails or like you're hiking through different trails or different parks basically, obtaining different resources like sun and water and mountains and trees, and then you're spending those to obtain these national parks or visit these national parks, and then it's at the end of the day or at the end of the round or game, it's most points wins. So super fun, highly recommend it.
That's awesome.
It's
Yeah,
awesome.
I've heard lots of good things about that game, so that'd be fun to play.
And it's
All
at
right.
Target.
Oh,
You can pick it up at Target. I'd recommend getting it at Game Store, but it is at Target if you got to.
Nice. Thank you. That's a good list, and I apologize for my list coming after it. But
No, I'm excited.
all right. So I mentioned I'm pretty basic when it comes to games. After I got married and started having kids, I have not done as much gaming as I would like to, unfortunately. So my number 5 is Risk, and that's basically pure nostalgia. Like, I played a ton of Risk growing up. It's a blast of a game, and like those games can just last forever too, which is kind of the unfortunate part of gaming in this day and age with kids. So, but
They do sort of the Monopoly thing too, where they have like IP specific ones. But unlike Monopoly,
yes. Mm-hmm.
the IP specific ones are really, really good.
They're really good. I played a ton of the Lord of the Rings Risk, which is fantastic. It's very, very good. So yeah, the Risk in general is my number 5, but the Lord of the Rings Risk is amazing. So
is your top 5 just different IP risks?
Yeah.
Yes, all of them.
Number 1, Halo Risk.
That would be awesome, but unfortunately I'm not that cool. So my number 4 is Villainous. I just got into this game not too long ago. And
do you have the regular one or the Marvel one?
I don't own it actually, but I've played it a bunch, and the people that we've played it with have a ton of the expansions. I have not played the Marvel expansion, so I definitely want to do that at some point. But Holly and I both played it together, and we were like, we need to pick this up. So it's on our list of games to purchase. But it's a fantastic game, and as Disney fans, my wife and I both just love the artwork is incredible. The inclusion of a lot of different Disney IPs that you might not even, notice from or know from, some older like villains that my first thing was when I opened up all of their expansions was Ratigan from Great Mouse Detective was on there. And I was like, this is amazing, because I watched that movie so much growing up, but it's like a lost movie. Like, some people don't even know that movie exists.
Criminal rat.
It's It was fantastic. So I played as him my first time ever, and it was awesome. I love the game. So definitely going to be picking that up at some point. My number 3 is Pandemic. That was the first co-op game that I ever played, and just classic. And it's one of a few games that unfortunately this is the hang up that I get. We don't play a lot of games at home, me and my wife, because a lot of the games we own are not necessarily good 2-player games, but we do still play every once in a while a game of Pandemic, just her and I. So great game. I love the co-op aspect of it, and for those people that get super duper competitive, it's fun to have this game to kind of just tone down the competitiveness a little bit. So my number 2, thanks to Zayne and Jarret, is Unmatched.
Yeah.
I literally just played this for the first time a couple months ago when all the Infinity Bros got together for the 4th of July, and instantly fell in love. Like, this game is fantastic. It also is on my list of games that I gotta buy. I just the whole gameplay, the different characters that you have, and now they're getting so many different IPs into the game too, which is just a cool aspect of it. really, really interested in that game. And my number one is probably one of the more basic ones on the list, but it's Settlers of Catan. I put that one at number one because, I mean, you guys kind of hit on it. It's like a gateway to more complex board gaming. Like, that was the first board game that I played that I was like, oh, there's more to gaming than just like moving your piece around the board. You know, like I was like, oh, okay, I can actually, do some different things with a board game than just, rolling my dice and moving my mice type of thing. So, Settlers of Catan, it's nostalgic. It's still a good play every time I get down to play a game. Love it. So that's my number one of all time.
You really
Zane.
undersold an absolute banger of a list. Like,
Yeah, right. Seriously.
This is the
So,
worst.
I don't play a ton of games, so these
That's
are
a
the
good
ones
list.
that I've hit on. But yeah, these are the ones that and I swear, like all of these games, Pandemic, Unmatched, Villainous, all games that I've like known and just learned in the past couple years. Like I haven't been playing games for years and years and years. So, but that's what I got.
Well, get plugged into Love Thy Nerd and you'll buy way too many. That's what happened to me. Like I've been into.
You want a
it
crippling
maybe-
addiction? Here you go.
Get into Love Thy Nerd. Oh man. Well, thanks guys. I appreciate the support. It's not a max list. I don't have a monopoly.
It's a great list, Isaac, but I'm still only going to give it a 5.9.
Fair. That's fair. Zane, why don't you go ahead since you're just all about bringing me down this episode, I guess.
All right. Well, first and foremost, as a callback to earlier in the episode, I pulled up and Googled that Nemesis game you were guys talking about, and I think that has to be the next game I buy. I'm like,
It's so stinking good.
Horror. It's giving me that alien vibe. Good. I'm single, so I got money to blow. Like,
Zane,
I love it and I hate it.
There's a cat expansion.
Oh my gosh!
It's actually like Cats in Space expansion.
Buy it right now.
Max, like, wait, what?
Is that the game? Wait, is that the game where the token that or like who's going first is a cat, like with?
Maybe. It's been a while since I played Nemesis.
Space cat?
I think so.
Space cat sounds amazing to me.
It's like a cat in like a little astronaut suit and like you pass it around.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome. Sounds awesome. I'm sold.
Buy it again now.
All in.
But all right, so for my list, at number 5, I also have Villainous. Fantastic game. Just the use of the different IPs and actually before we even hopped on the podcast here, we were literally just playing Villainous upstairs. So
nice.
Literally was just playing that one tonight.
Awesome.
Good one.
My number 4 is Scythe. It's I like it just because it's that next step up from Catan. Like Catan's obviously that great bit of a game, but like Scythe's just like, hey, we're gonna take this up a little bit to the next level. So that's my number 4. Number 3 for me is Betrayal at House on the Hill. Like, just again, the horror aspect of it, just getting to build your level, and then just the way that like
it's Spooktober.
It's Spooktober, right?
Spooktober. Like
I can't go against Spooktober. My number 2 is also Unmatched. I gotta echo that for everything that Isaac said too. Just there's so many characters, there's so many like unique ways you can play it. And yeah, you'll spend all kinds of money and have all these different character packs, and you're like, oh, well, this is all for one game. And I'm pretty sure Isaac did that too when we brought all that in for that weekend. And we're like, oh no, see this stack here, this is all one game. Like this is this is all one thing. And my number 1, just nostalgia pick, throw it back, is one of the first big games that I fell in love with as a teenager, Axis and Allies. Just get a group together. We're going to sit around a table for a couple hours and we're just going to play some world domination.
More than a couple hours. You're going to sit around a table for like 6 hours.
Well, I have a version that you can play faster than the original version. So it doesn't take the 6, but you look at 2.
All right. Great list. Let's cap it off with our Infinity Bros video or board game expert, Jarret.
So I originally had Marvel Champions as my number 1, but I felt like we should someday do a separate card game list, so I took it off. But I'm gonna start at my number 5. Number 5, and this is wild. I'm going after Zane because it's essentially his list. Number 5 is Scythe. It's one of my absolute favorite games of all time. I'll crank out as many games possible in a night as I can. The expansions are fantastic. They add a lot of replayability to that. Number 4 is a party game that I bring out wherever I go, and it is my introduction to board gaming and cooperative board gaming for a bunch of people. It is Mysterium. If you haven't played this one, it's a cool like murder mystery thing. It's cooperative, and it's a good party game, which I look for because not everybody wants to sit down and learn complex rules to some of these things. So Mysterium is like the soft pitch into that. Number 3 is a game I don't own, but I've been trying to get my hands on forever. It is Root by Leader Games. It is this cute asymmetric war game wrapped up in like the most adorable woodland creature bundle ever. And it looks so unassuming, but it is one of the most fantastic asymmetric games I've ever seen. Number 2 is 2 games, and I count them together because they're very similar. There's obviously big differences, but it is Betrayal and Nemesis. We've talked ad nauseum about both. Check them both out. They're fantastic. All the different versions of Betrayal, too. They just announced Widow's Walk. They have Betrayal Legacy, Betrayal at Baldur's Gate. And obviously, Nemesis is great because it's aliens in space and there's a cat expansion. At number 1, and one that I'm continuing to pitch to anybody and everybody I can meet, and I've probably personally sold like 25,000 copies of this because every single person I talk to, I say, buy this game right now. It is Unmatched. Fantastic game. I love the battle royale aspect of it. And with the announcement of the new Marvel's products, and the fact that somebody is finally giving love to Moon Knight.
Yes.
I am all in on Mundo and Restoration games right now. Like they're doing fantastic stuff. Those are 2 of my... Mundo does some fantastic artwork, and Restoration Games does a great job of bringing back and making new games. So yeah, I'm all sold out on Unmatched.
So yeah, I mean, I guess this is the official endorsement of Unmatched from the Infinity Bros podcast.
Do I need to move it to my top 5?
Yeah. Restoration Games, throw all your money at us. We'll talk about you till the end of time.
Awesome. That is awesome. Well, thank you guys all for your lists. Great top 5 section. We haven't had a good top 5 for a while, just because we've been I feel like every episode I've been on lately, we've had to leave off a top 5 because we've gone way too long. So
right.
I'm glad we got to a solid top 5 list in today.
We probably went too long, but you know what? This episode was fantastic.
It's worth it.
It's worth
Luke
it.
has been, I mean, other than the weird Monopoly comment, Luke, you've been
That was weird. That was my variant.
He's like, Monopoly.
That was my variant. That wasn't even me. I finally came back. So
you were kidnapped by a scroll, and I get the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
That wasn't
me. Frost, it has been awesome to have you on. Let's have you just go ahead and tell the interwebs where they can find you.
Easiest thing would be to just go to your favorite social media and just search for FrostByte IV. Byte is with a Y. So just search that. The link in my bio will give you all my other links, and you can find me. I'm on Twitch, Twitter, Instagrams, Facebook, all of it. You can also, I would also plug Love Thy Nerd. Just go to lovethynerd.com. All the stuff's there. And then you can, if you want to find them on a social media, search Love Thy Nerd, or just lovethynerd.com/whatever you want to find. Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. They're real easy to find. And then ltncon.info.
Awesome. Yeah, it has been a pleasure to have you on the Infinity Bros podcast. Thank you so much for guesting with us tonight.
Yeah, it's a pleasure being here. I love you guys and love listening. It was awesome. I feel like I'm in the MCU now.
I was actually mentioning to these guys before you hopped on, it's really fun to have guests who actually listen to our podcast because you're in on the jokes that we can't use when we have guests that don't listen to our podcast. So.
I'm actually honored that I'm on an episode with Zayne.
Yeah, that's true.
There you go.
You struck gold.
You're saying something that some of us Infinity Bros can't even say.
This episode is a full art hollow of episodes. So
I love it. Well, Zayne, thank you for also being on the episode today as our second guest on the Infinity Bros podcast. We appreciate you and love you. And apparently Frost likes you too now. So, you know.
I have that effect on people. No, just kidding.
Of course you do.
Second bad take of the night for
I actually I had to go review the podcast before I was on because I didn't want to. I've been meaning to review the podcast, and I'm like, I can't do it after I'm a guest. Like that would just seem like favoritism. So I reviewed it today.
That one guest
And
you
I
had
said
on was
something about Zayne
fantastic.
for
We
that.
love him.
We'll be that one guest. We'll be reading that review on a later podcast.
I'm
so
sure.
Stay tuned. Well, Jarret, thank you also for being on. It has been a pleasure to have you on today.
Yeah, I'm so fortunate to be on with two of our favorite guests.
Yeah, Zayne has been a guest on probably 20 of our almost 100 episodes now. So pleasure to have Zayne on once again.
Hey, as Scott says, I'm the enigma of the Infinity Bros podcast.
You really
so
are.
you're
the mysterious corner of the Infinity Bros universe.
exactly.
Sure.
I am just that Pandora's box. You don't know what you're gonna get.
Like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. That was my awful.
That was terrible. I was gonna say that is so bad.
Oh, mate, never know what you're gonna get in a box of chocolates.
I'm terrible at impressions. You guys already know that. All right. Well, however you're listening, I already screwed that up, guys. Wherever you're listening, however you're listening, thank you so much for making us a part of your day. You can check out the Infinity Bros podcast on any major podcast platform, and you can check out the Infinity Bros on any social media and on Twitch and YouTube. So make sure to do that and have a wonderful week. We love you 2000.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Infinity Bros podcast. You can find the Infinity Bros on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the Infinity Bros. Feel free to send listener feedback via email at infinitybrospodcast@gmail.com.